All right, so now we've done all the content, it's time to review the methodology. Now you might have skipped the determinants and the coping, or you might have skipped the coping, or you might have condensed the coping, but the methodology must be covered because it could be in the exams. So we're looking at two research methods, experiments and correlational studies, and ethical considerations. So race to the front based on definitions. This is a good way to review. If you've already covered this, you might not have. So if you haven't already covered these terms, you can make it open book. Good short video here about the gold standard randomized clinical controlled trials. So, okay, recapping. All right, what are the studies they remember? And then this is how I like to teach research methods. And I think it's really valuable to do it at the end. And this is why I always teach research methods later in the course. I never begin a course with research methods. It's building a roof before you've got the house, before you got the foundations. Because now we know what the studies are, they can write down all the studies, and then they can start figuring out, okay, what were the most common methods used? And then they figure out, okay, well, how did they use them? Right? And then why? So because they've got all these examples to draw from. So they'll see, for example, that in a lot of correlational studies, they use the PSS, and a lot of true experiments, they use the TSST, right? It gives us something to write about now for how. Try to explain that in the beginning of the unit, it wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, so they write down the studies they can remember, and we write down the studies they remember, and then they can use their books or other resources to add to the list. And then in this table here in the workbooks, they write down the examples for each. Now then what they're going to do is they choose one method that they like, or they feel like they're an expert on, and form new groups. So you get a correlational group, a quasi group, a true group, and then they figure out, okay, how and why was that method? What is it? How was it used? Why was it used? And then they can split up. They can so one method, how and why. Now ideally, possibly they'll be able to do this with two methods. Just remember for paper 2, experiments is one method. Okay, so I recommend experiments and correlational studies. Chalk and talk here, or there's video explanations about this is all the how and why those methods are used. Okay, it's also in the book. Homework question, it could be basic. Just get them to come up with one question, and they write it down on a piece of paper or a piece of card, and then hand it in at the start of the next class. All right, next up, we'll look at ethical considerations.